John McCarthy's not going to be around forever, so I need to then come up with something else to talk about. I don't like to be obvious when I'm manipulating people.
Hello, and welcome to the BCV channel. I am your host, Pastor SaikoWoods. Please do the following. Please like, subscribe, share. Hit the notification bell at the bottom of the video. That way, whenever I go live or post any content, you'll be one of the first to view it. Also, if you'd like to support this ministry financially, first and foremost, thank you so much for your support. Thank you, those of you who have been consistently and faithfully supporting this ministry, Love, Life, and Marriage with the Woods as well. With your faithful giving and your tangible expressions of love. Thank you so much for that. We really do appreciate it. But also you can support the ministry again as well by clicking the donation links below at the bottom of the video. We use not PayPal. We use Cash App, Venmo, and Zelle. Those are the three options that we use. We encourage those of you who are here in these United States to consider using those particular options. It helps us to receive your gifts in a timely manner versus using Super Chat, which takes over a month to do so. Unless you are in the Canada area, living in Canada, like my sister Lynn Montan, she lives in Ontario, she says, and so you know how people from Canada talk. They talk like this. So those people can use the Super Chat. All right. So thank you all so much for your support and for your tangible expressions of love to support this ministry and this channel. But if you'd like to also support the ministry through the BCV merchandise, you can do that by clicking the BCV store. You can click that information there and you can choose from any of the articles of clothing, material, cups, mugs, things of that nature. Just go over there and click that link and you will be able to shop until you drop. We thank you so much for that as well too. Moderators, thank you for holding it down in the chat. Facebook family, thank you so much as well. Sister Loretta, I see you. You're good to go. Good to go. Daryl, no, you're not banned for now. You should be good all right for right now. As long as you behave yourself, we should be all right. Send me a profile of yourself so we can set this up on tomorrow night. It'll be you and another guest that I'll be having on at the same time, discussing Brother Corey Minor. So send me a profile pic of yourself, and we'll get this situated and set up for tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. All right. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining. Hit that like button, subscribe button, share button. Y'all know how we do it. Tag a friend. Of course, already the enemies are tagged. It's all good. Y'all know how we move and how we get down. But I want to cover a few things. I want to make sure that we always have our foundational text as we are addressing and dealing with subjects of this nature. I try to make sure that we have a biblical basis for why I do what I do. And when I address particular topics and issues, I want to have a biblical foundation so that way people can be on the same page. We're not just meandering and walking all over the place and not knowing what the subject is and what texts are applying to these issues. And so, of course, you saw the thumbnail. If you don't know this individual, you will know him. If you saw the initial clips, that is Tim Hurd. He was a guest on my broadcast 2 years ago. Matter of fact, March the 6th of 2021, he appeared on this channel, the BCV channel, and we had a dialogue/debate. And in that discussion/dialogue/debate, there were some things said. There was some misunderstanding on my part that I publicly repented for. And I'm going to explain and share that with you later in the live today. However, Tim Hurd, being who he is and being who he's associated with Protestia and formerly of Pulpit and Pen, and David Morrow, who I call No Moral, and you'll see why as well later in this live. These individuals, these people are notorious for twisting and spinning and misapplying and misrepresenting people, and they think that they are doing journalism. In fact, Phil Johnson has gone on record and called it yellow journalism. These same individuals who they used to run with, Chris Roseborough, Phil Johnson, Justin Peters, have pretty much thrown these people up under the bus. You know, when J.D. Fall, the drug addict, the Xanax abuser, wife beater, child abuser, who no longer is a pastor because he does not know how to govern himself in his own household. Therefore, he no longer is a pastor at the church he was there. And of course, these people at Protestia, it's all documented, ladies and gentlemen. It's all documented. David No Moral and the rest of them try to cape and cover for these people. And this is why this kind of stuff needs to be exposed. So here we are today. The continuation of these individuals and their lies seem to know no end. And it doesn't matter who you are. If you cross them, they will become your enemy. And so character, they don't have it. Integrity is non-existent. Truth, you do better have a better time finding Waldo than finding these people being known for the truth. And so today, at this special broadcast, at this special time, I wanted to have this live done earlier because of other family responsibilities that I want to give my attention to. I wanted to have this live done 2 hours before my regular start and show time. So let's jump into some texts and we'll get this party started. All right. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 16 through 19. The Bible reads, "There are 6 things which the Lord hates. Yes, 7, which are an abomination to him. Haughty eyes," or King James says a proud look, "a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood." Verse 18, a heart that devises wicked plans. You're going to see that in this live in the clips that are going to be played today. A heart that devises wicked plans. That's Tim Hurd. Feet that run rapidly to evil. That's Tim Hurd. A false witness who utters lies. That's Tim Hurd and David No Moral. And one who spreads strife or sows discord among brethren. That's Tim Hurd. That's David No Moral. That's the mob. And anyone else that's associated with these people. These individuals, if you watch how they move and the trouble that they cause, you would want to question whether or not these people are saved. And you would have every right to question that by how they attack people, but yet they want to claim that they've been under attack. No, they're the ones that are the attackers. We just the ones that clap back. So ain't no punks over here. You're not gonna bully anyone over here and think you're gonna go and get any heat, any smoke back. That's not happening. Not on this channel. Let's look at some other texts. Proverbs chapter 12. Well, let's go back to chapter 4. Let's go chapter 4 first. Verse 25 through 27. "Let your eyes look directly ahead and let your gaze be fixed straight in front of you. Watch the path of your feet, and all your ways will be established. Do not turn to the right nor to the left. Turn your foot from evil." Don't think Protestia and these people know anything about turning from evil. They're known to stir up confusion and evil. Proverbs 12:22. Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord. Yeah, we only thought homosexuality was abomination, huh? No, God says liars, lying lips are an abomination to the Lord. Yeah, when you lie, and it is your pattern of life, and you're known to be a liar, God says he hates you. Yeah, I know. Love the sin, hate the sinner. That ain't what the Bible says. Psalm 5 said he hates all who do evil, and lying is evil. So take a wild guess who God hates. Liars. Liars. He also has an issue with people who are not honest and people who lack integrity and people who grift. I know Mr. No Moral accuses me of being a grifter. Well, we're going to find out who's the grifter in this live tonight. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 1 and 2. Therefore, since we have this ministry, Paul writes, as we receive mercy, we do not lose heart, but we have renounced the things hidden because of shame, not walking in craftiness or adulterating the word of God, but by the manifestation of truth, commending ourselves to every man's conscience in the sight of God. Yeah, we don't pimp the word of God. We don't adulterate. We're not unfaithful to the message for profit. Yeah. Let that sink in. Hebrews chapter 13. Let's go to HEB 13. Some of y'all to get that if you're from here. Verse 18, it says, pray for us, the writer says, for we are sure that we have a good conscience. Notice, desiring to conduct ourselves honorably in all things. You think that's Protestant? You think that's David No Moral? You think that's Tim Hurd, Bible thumping wingnut? You think that's the mob? You think they can say that they conduct themselves honorably in all things? I think not. Just look at their pattern of behavior. Look at the people they slandered. Julie Royce, Han Cho. Minimize the abuses of individuals who have survived. Eileen Gray and others. Just look at their work. They would rather cape for preachers who cover for pedophiles and child abusers and wife beaters. That's what they would rather do. That's what they would rather do. But one more text. Can't forget about Peter. His second letter, chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. He says, but false prophets also arose among the people, just as there will be false teachers among you, who will secretly introduce destructive heresies. You know what a destructive heresy is? Telling people they need to stay with their abuser. Saying that's the Lord's will for them to be beaten, to suffer well. I'm not making it up. It's all documented. It's all documented. Yeah. To suffer well, to tell a wife who's being beaten by her quote unquote husband, who's supposed to shepherd her, who's supposed to be her protector. You're telling her that she needs to suffer well. That's destructive heresies. Yeah, I know. You think word of faith doctrine is just destructive heresies. No, we got some destructive heresies within the Reform camp as well. Oh yeah. Yeah. Who will secretly introduce destructive heresies. Watch who counsel you, ladies and gentlemen. Can I say that? Be careful of the counsel, the quote unquote biblical Christian counsel that you get from these churches today. I know I'm talking to somebody. I know somebody I'm talking to. Yeah. Be careful. In the words of the theologian Emmett Till, be very, very careful of the so-called biblical Christian counsel that you receive from some of these so-called churches. Because they could be one of the ones that are secretly introducing destructive heresies. even denying the master who bought them, bringing swift destruction upon themselves. Verse 2, many will follow their sensuality. Yeah, we call them capers, fanboys, McCarthyites. Many will follow their sensuality, and because of them, the way of the truth will be maligned. And in their greed, they will exploit you with false words. Their judgment from long ago is not idle, and the destruction is not sleep. In other words, God sees it. And he takes impeccable notes. Oh yeah. We serve a God who never sleeps nor slumbers. Trust me, they may think that they're getting by, but people like John MacArthur and them, they won't get away. Yeah, they may get by here, but here is not all there is. There is another life after this one expires. Count on that. Count on that. So, the following clips I'm going to play are clips from Pastor Jeff Durbin from Apologia Church. He too was the object and victim for 5 years of abuse. These are his words, not mine. You'll hear it in the video. 5 years of incessant abuse, incessant slander, incessant harassment. By who? By the world? Mm-mm. By big tech? Mm-mm. By the mainstream media? Uh-uh. By so-called brethren. Well, who's the so-called brethren you're talking about, Saiko? Well, don't take my word for it. Let Jeff tell you.
I want you to know how difficult it was to show mercy for years. When somebody lies about you publicly through podcasts, through video, through public posts, it is very hard to show someone mercy when they are lying about you consistently, and to essentially not reveal everything publicly. And so we showed mercy and grace for a long time. He contacted us. We, of course, recorded it as a witness, and this is what he committed to. This is 11 minutes and 21 seconds.
So yeah, thank you.
You know what would help me is open lines. Like if I catch wind of something that I disagree with, I think I'd like to talk to somebody.
So what do you have there? You have a confession of sin, purposeful misrepresentation, that means lying, motivated by jealousy and pride. He says that throughout there. You can hear it for yourself. Later in the conversation, after we grant the forgiveness, he then says, in the future, it would help me if I catch wind of something, if I had open lines of communication. And here's what was said to him.
One of the three of you and get some clarification.
Tim, I'll just be really honest in that we just don't have time for open lines. We're moving into a position where Jeff is really busy and has to guard his pastoral time. So he has an assistant now that people in the church have to make appointments with. And so it would be unfair to the members of our church if we gave you an open line. And it's nothing personal against you. It's just that we really have to guard Jeff's time as a pastor now with everything we're doing.
Well,
so
if you mean, however, like you'd like to be able to have a call for a question or something like that, I can give you a route to do that. So you can definitely do that. Like if you have a question about something,
bring something to our attention. It's like, hey, what do you think of Jeff saying this? You know, he's saying this. Instead of going on on a podcast and half understanding and trying to answer somebody's question, it would be better for me to get clarification.
Get clarification. That's.
You know what? Let me give Jeff his flowers right now. Shout out to Jeff and to his people at Apologia. You better than me, bro. 5 years? Nah. I may have given them 5 days. I mean, I was gracious by giving the mob, almost 6 months, give or take? I don't know. I lose count. But Yeah, 5 years. Yeah. You got the patience of Job and his grandmama. Mm-hmm. But that clown would have had that much time. He would definitely got dealt with. But this is why this kind of stuff is important, because it shows you the patience and the willingness for people to try to work with those who are really irreconcilable. You know, that's one of the signs of the last days. Y'all do know that, right? In second Timothy 3, people are going to be irreconcilable. They're not, like my brother Puny says, they're not going to want to reason. They're unwilling to reason. They're unwilling to be entreated. They're unwilling to have a rational conversation and discussion. No, what they rather do, they rather try to tear your name down, because they'd rather raise up their own idols and protect their idols, like John MacArthur and others. So they're unreasonable. Peter calls them, in identifying false teachers, unreasoning animals. Unreasoning animals. I mean, how can an image bearer act like an unreasoning animal when they're not walking in the Spirit? You know, it's one thing if an unbeliever is doing it, because they have no filter. They have nothing to govern them. But you have people who profess and claim to be Christians who act just like unbelievers. And it's more than likely, they probably are. You know, life has a way of bringing the real you out. And what we're seeing is a lot of the real yous before us. And this is not Tim Hurd's first time. This is not Tim Hurd's first rodeo in being a slanderer and being an accuser of the brethren. He has a record of slander. And why does he do it? Let Jeff tell you.
What's the commitment? Instead of going online and doing a podcast with only half information, what are you going to do, Tim? You're going to contact me for clarification. So we have confession of sin and then a commitment in the future not to do that anymore. I'm going to contact you privately. Now, you did it a year ago with Ben Shapiro and everything was fine. You didn't do it this year when you started up this pattern of sin again. You committed here to do so, and you got full permission for it. Yeah, and that's I think that's the order it should be done. And I don't mean to stick a finger in a wound, but just so you can to say that I agree with you. In the past, when some stuff happened and we did get a chance to talk, I think that's one of the things I said to you is you could have just called me and asked me before you went on and talked about it, which I think that would be helpful. So there's the commitment, and there's my granting Tim that access. And I just want everyone to hear in that what Marcus was referring to there is because of our ministry and all the ways and all the areas we're serving in, there's a lot of people that contact us on a daily basis, messages, emails, phone calls, those sorts of things. And we're committed to our church body. We're pastors of Apologia Church. We're in front of our church body all day. As a matter of fact, today, when we're done with this, we have an entire day booked with face-to-face with our members all day to minister to them, to love them, to encourage them, to support them. That's what we do all day. And so Tim asking for access, Marcus is like, well, wait, our church body takes precedence. Like they have to have access to Jeff, and they have to have that. And so like we just can't give you direct access. And so, but it was still granted to Tim, still graciously granted to him, even after all of the sin. Tim attempted over the last week, when, of course, it's made known to him through private conversation that you're back at it again. He attempted to minimize what he's been up to over the last couple of months by saying things like, I was just offering a very gracious critique. I never said I wasn't going to critique Jeff again. By the way, brothers and sisters, please hear me on this. Tim's allowed to critique me. Anybody's allowed to critique me. Mm-hmm. My teaching is public. You're allowed to critique, no problem. Misrepresentation is the problem. And misrepresentation, purposeful misrepresentation and jealousy is what Tim was guilty of before. He confesses to it, and he said that he wouldn't do it again, and he would make sure that he had communication from me privately before he went and did podcasts on something. That's Tim's sin. He broke his promise, years of abuse, almost 5. And now we're at the point we are now where there's public exposure of his sin. That's what this ultimately is. He tried to minimize it, saying, I was very gracious in my critique. I was just saying, like, precept, like we need to focus more on like making sure the gospel is in there succinctly. So I want you to know, over this last summer, Tim started publishing videos, and closer to us too. He started publishing videos about me with my picture, my face, saying, let's play What Would You Rather with Jeff Durbin. Videos like Jeff Durbin attempts to preach the gospel. Videos like I think I was wrong about Jeff Durbin. There's just the videos, and of course there was a Patreon phone call that I was sent where he's also talking about me in that phone call. No conversation was made between Tim and I. He never contacted me to say, hey Jeff, can I get clarification? Like, can I make sure I understand this? Like he said he would do here in the confession, he didn't do that. He just started going on and repeating the same pattern of sin that he had years ago, that he had committed against us for years.
Now notice what this man just said. Patterns of sin. Jealousy. He admits to being jealous of another man's ministry, thereby, ergo, he strives to tear down another man's ministry. What kind of person does that? What kind of person does that? Now, interestingly, also notice that Jeff said he doesn't have a problem with people publicly critiquing his stuff because it's public. And have I not been saying that as well too? If you say something publicly, it's open to critique. But what's not open is you or I intentionally misrepresenting someone for the sake of clicks and follows and subs. And then when you're called on it, you want to play victim. You want to refuse to be held accountable, even when people are asking for those that are over you, for them to contact them, for you to stop doing what you're doing. And this is how we know that the wicked flee when no one pursues. Because when you're not in sin, you have no problem submitting to biblical authority. You have no problem being a person of integrity. And yes, we will mess up. Yes, we will sin. We will drop the ball. But intentionally slamming the ball and dropping it are two different things. Stepping on my foot and stomping on it are two different things. One is accidental, which requires an apology. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Please forgive. I'm sorry. You understand that, right? The latter, which is intentional, not only requires an apology, but also requires repentance and confession. And also a means to make right the intentional injury that you caused. You think these people do that? Not really. But let's keep listening.
This particular video I'm about to play for you right now, and if you guys have your audio turned down, make sure you turn it up for this one, just because I think he talks kind of low in it. This is from August the 2nd of this year. The title of the video is, I Think I Was Wrong About Jeff Durbin. I think I was wrong about Jeff Durbin. And this is at about the 10-minute mark. Here is what Tim said on August 2nd, 2019.
You can see it if you haven't heard it already. So, to be gracious, after exposing his failure on that particular podcast, see, because I know that Jeff Durbin knows the gospel, and I know that he can preach it clearly. So, I went looking for a short clip of him presenting the gospel clearly, so that I could put it at the end of the podcast. Like, hey, Jeff, this is what you should have done. This is what you should have done right here. I couldn't find one.
We have almost 1,200 videos up, over 10 years of ministry, countless examples of on-the-street evangelism, gospel preaching, street preaching, speaking around the world, preaching the gospel, messages. Let me just say this, brothers and sisters, please hear me on this as a pastor. With a man who has sinned against us for a 5-year history, this accusation is not a small accusation. It cuts to the heart of who we are as a ministry. Mm-hmm. When you allege that a minister of the gospel, you can't find in 1,200 videos, you couldn't find it. Me succinctly preaching the gospel, like you can't find it. I tried, I couldn't find it. That is not a low allegation. That is the heart of everything. Let me just say this. If I can't succinctly preach the gospel as a minister, I'm disqualified to be a minister. This is no small allegation, Tim. It's the same pattern of behavior. And I want to add, very, very importantly here, is that people saw this, and you can read the comments. I'm going to read them for you in a second here so you can see it's not just Jeff's interpretation of, hey, Tim, what you're doing is strange here. But I want to say this, 1,200 videos. Tim, if you type in Jeff Durbin and gospel in the search bar on YouTube, they start coming up. They all start coming up. It won't take you very long with 1,200 videos to find it. And at the end of this show, brothers and sisters, at the very end and culmination, we're going to let you see for yourself of just a day of Isaac going through some videos. He just pulled together things, and it's by no means exhaustive. To suggest that you look through our videos and you could not find a video or a clip of me succinctly preaching the gospel is mischaracterizing me and our ministry. Tim, you're lying. We've demonstrated that you lied to your listeners last night, threw your teeth to your listeners, you abused them, you disrespected them, you lied publicly last night, you were lying years ago, you confessed to lying about us, and you're lying here.
I mean, let that sink in, ladies and gentlemen. Receipts don't lie, but people do, right? This man is a known liar. Why isn't he marked and avoided? Why isn't the mob marking and avoiding Tim Hurd? David Morrow, a.k.a. No Moral. Why aren't these people being marked and avoided? I think we know why, right? Yeah. Yeah, they do travel in packs, don't they?
So the next video is Jeff Durbin attempts to preach the gospel. Note the terminology. Jeff Durbin attempts to preach the gospel. First and foremost, I can't find a clip of him doing it succinctly. Next is he attempts to preach the gospel. So in this, he's trying to respond to people who essentially are criticizing him, saying, hey, this isn't fair, you're not being right. Let me read to you some of the comments here under Jeff Durbin attempts to preach the gospel. Not that these are the full standard, but in terms of how are people receiving this from Tim. This person says here, I'm looking for videos that are brief, short, and to the point. And when did Jeff say that's what his goal was for these videos? Somebody says, excellent points. If you look at Hurd's videos, he has viewer number spikes whenever he includes Durbin or someone else a little more well-known. Here we go, next one. You ask people to send in clips of him preaching the gospel, and they do. And you still find a way to discredit it. Laugh out loud, this video is comical. And somebody says, absolutely, nothing has been good enough. Somebody says, I've lost all respect for you, Tim. You started quite well, and now you're just a bitter Christian. So here's the point. I'm not going to go through all those comments. Just to make a point here, it isn't just Jeff Durbin seeing what you're doing. Other people are saying, Tim, what are you doing here? This isn't fair. This isn't right. What are you saying? And the point is in this very video, people sent him videos, like just here's some random videos. And what he attempts to do as he goes through them is lie about what's in the video. And he tries to move the goalpost further and further down as people send him videos like, here's a video of Jeff preaching the gospel succinctly. He continues to move the goalpost down the line because Tim won't just be confronted over his misrepresentation. That's our experience with him. So this particular video is Jeff Durbin attempts to preach the gospel. And at 12 minutes, I want you to hear what he says here. This is very important. He plays a video someone sent to him of me preaching the gospel on the beach. Very important. Remember, he told you he couldn't even find a video online of me succinctly preaching the gospel. People start sending him videos like, Tim, like, what are you doing? You seem like you're a bitter Christian. Like, what are you up to? So he says here at 12 minutes, listen to one video of me preaching the gospel on the beach.
It's 20 minutes long, but you have to start at the 10-minute mark. This was the suggestion from the people who sent it in was two people suggested this video. The first 10 minutes is pretty much rambling and not the gospel.
Okay, so he has the video. Tim, did you think, brother, that people weren't going to be able to go examine this? Did you think people were not committed enough to the truth that they wouldn't actually go and examine the video? It is available right now for everyone to see for themselves, and I encourage you guys to go do it. It's called Jeff Preaches the Gospel on the Beach. Tim, it's available for everybody to listen to. And you said the first 10 minutes is rambling and not the gospel. Rambling and not the gospel. Well, brothers and sisters, I'm going to play this for you. A couple parts. It's 10 minutes. I'm not doing the 10 minutes. I'll just do a couple parts here. This is the 2-minute mark.
See, again, I want y'all to hear this kind of stuff is what these people are known for. And again, this man said he had been dealing with this for 5 years. They did not say a word. They tried to deal with this man privately. Again, he's better than me. He's better than me. Because you out here clowning and wilding out publicly and trying to destroy what God has entrusted me to build. No, I'm going to defend myself. I'm going to defend my name. I'm going to defend what God has given to me. I'm not going to sit back and let anybody destroy what God has entrusted to me. And this is not a dig against Jeff at all. What I'm saying is that it shows you how people respond to the Tim Hurds and the Protestius and the David Morrows of the world. Some people try to exercise long terms of patience and trying to reach out to these people and try to reason with these people to no avail. J.D. Hall, all of them. And years ago, I used to be associated with them until I started to see how they were tripping. I said, I got to get out of that. And once you start doing that, you become their enemy. And this is why, for me, if you're not equipped to deal with bullies, if you're not equipped to deal with these type of people, they're going to run you crazy. They'll even run you to self-deletion, like J.D. Hall did to Braxton Canner. Yeah, the little teenage boy. Yeah. He will always be remembered for that. That reproach will never be wiped away because he's never changed. And neither have they.
This is not about who your favorite person is. Mm-hmm. This is about standards that God tells us to uphold as Christians, God's standards. Tim is lying again. For us as a church, it's been, like I said, almost 5 years of abuse. We've tried private recourse. We've tried the local church. He utterly refused. Then, years ago and now, he committed to not doing this anymore and to contacting me in the future if he had questions. He didn't do that. When I was made aware of all this stuff that was happening, I tried to give the information to somebody on his board that he says he would want me to give it to. The person was dismissive of it, and now actually is trying to use that against us to say somehow that we're just sharing this like flowers out of a hat with people sort of a thing. No, we shared it first trying to get help from somebody that's in his ministry with him, and they were just saying, no, it's best I'll mind my own business.
Again, I just want y'all to hear the clips. I'll continue on.
I just want to say this whole thing is about integrity, right?
Yes.
And what, Tim, brother, like what you've done, what you've been doing in these videos, what you've done last week is ultimately attack the integrity of our ministry. Your videos that greatly lack integrity and honesty have now caused people to question our integrity, which again goes back to that's the very definition of sowing discord among brothers. But I have an honest question for you, brother. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? Like, what is the point of doing these videos? How is this benefiting the body of Christ? How is this bringing honor and glory to our Savior? Wouldn't your time be much better served by doing what Jeff is doing? By being out in the street and preaching the gospel to somebody, to people on the beach. So I ask that honestly, graciously, and in love, what are you trying to accomplish? Whose glory are you seeking in doing videos like this?
It is done. Should I stumble again, you come to me. Hey, guess what? I just thought of this. They never came to me in the first place. I came to them. That's not funny. My sin wasn't funny. I had sinned against them. I was sinning against them. They didn't confront me on my sin. I came to them. I don't think Durbin has ever come to me. Well, maybe he has.
So,
well, maybe, yeah.
So, Tim, I want to say to you as a brother, you're lying. You're lying, can I say, through your teeth. And Tim, you know it. You know it.
It just does something. It should do something to us when we hear people like Tim Hurd. they'll go on record and go on camera to sound as though that they are contrite, that they are repentant, and then turn right around and flip it to make it seem like you're the individual, you're the one who's wrong, and he was the one that tried to reach out to you, to try to reconcile, and so forth and so on. And nothing, and I do mean absolutely nothing, can be further from the truth. And see, I want to add another point, because you heard them say that they recorded this man's conversation. So for all of you who try to take issue and umbrage with your boy over here, please be quiet. Because this is the reason why a lot of you can't defend yourself, and you're just trusting these devils. You're trusting these demons. You're trusting these liars, these frauds. And then when they hang you high on the gallows, you have nothing to defend yourself with. Jesus said we're to be wise as serpents, but innocent as doves. We should be innocent when it comes to evil, but we're to be wise. We're supposed to have some snaps about ourselves when we're dealing with people like this. And thank God they recorded his conversation, because look what happened. He turned right around and started attacking and falsely accusing them again, and they had to pull him. They had to pull him. Some of y'all better start waking up and realizing the days and times that you're in.
Brothers and sisters, as we get on here, we're going to talk about a phone call that was recorded where Tim called to confess his sin to us, and he committed to do something in the future so that he would change his ways. He didn't do that. He broke his promise and his confession. He started the same stuff all over again fairly recently, back this year, a couple months ago. But Tim said here, you all heard him say that we've never come to him, we've never confronted him. Before we get started today in the major portions, I want you all to take a look at this. Go ahead and pull the screen up, Carmen, so you all can see. Can you all look at the date on this? This is back February 21st of 2015, 4:17 p.m. February 21st, 2015. Tim was involved in public false witness. He confesses to this. By the way, everything I'm telling you now, he doesn't deny. He lied about us. He says he purposefully misrepresented us. He was motivated by sin and by jealousy and by pride. He said last night, we've never contacted him. I want you to see February 21st, 2015. I'd like to speak with a man or men who have authority in your life, brother. That's me to Tim, privately. Please give me a number to contact them. Thank you. That was 2015, my message to him. He says back, I'd be happy to, but shouldn't you speak with me first? I'm not sure you're following the proper biblical steps here, assuming you're bringing my pastor into the conversation because we do not agree doctrinally. Here's what I said in response to that. You have refused correction about your misrepresentation of me publicly. This is leading to others publicly maligning me. Several witnesses have to my show called you out on the misrepresentation, and you've still refused to either remove it or clarify in the original post. Tim has lied about us, slandered us, misrepresented us. He admits to that publicly through comments, posts, and through podcasts and videos. So it was about a 2.5 year at least long process of this sin. What we're referring to in this moment is I was already on one of the threads he was lying about us on. I already asked for the name of his pastor on the thread and was refuting what he said on the thread. So then I went to him privately because I already did confront him. I already did confront him as a brother. So I say to him, you've refused correction about your misrepresentation of me publicly. This is leading to others publicly maligning me. Several witnesses, people are already in this. Next, number 2. I think this will greatly benefit the conversation. Okay, explain, how did I misrepresent you? I say to him, I'm not going to repeat what I said numerous times on the thread. So I've already talked to him numerous times at this point. The same thing others repeated numerous times, Tim. You are clearly an out of control, divisive man. I would like the elder's number, please. I've asked for it several times now. I've asked him in the thread at this point, and now I'm asking him privately. I've confronted him, and I'm confronting him privately, and I'm asking for this to be mediated within God's institution of the local church with authority, pastors' involvement. Brothers and sisters, this is 2015. And Tim said last night, he reached out to us. We never reached out to him. That is an outright, bald-faced lie. And this goes on. This is 2015. I'll be happy to give you my pastor's number, but not on Saturday night. And so I say, I'd be happy to get it now, and I'll call him tomorrow or Monday. If you give me your number, I'll call you right now and tell you specifically my complaint and what I'm going to make him aware of. And so the next one, Number 3. So I say, can I have your number, please? And your elders, please. I've asked numerous times now, Tim. He says, I may only have a short time to talk, family stuff. I normally don't talk on the phone unless I'm at work driving. Guys, we're going to have to blank out, Isaac, we're going to have to blank out his phone number here. I didn't realize it was up here later in the video. Erase that out. So he says, later on, February 21st, 2015, wow, bro, I'm reading the comments of Kendall Cook's post, and he says, I didn't read these comments before now. Not sure you should be asking for my pastor's number publicly. Because now you see I was asking for it now in private and in public. So Tim said last night, he contacted us. We've never contacted him. Brothers and sisters, this is going on a 5-year history. I have talked to him in private. I have talked to him in public, confronting his sin and asking for his pastor's information. He absolutely refuses.
So now, you heard all that, right? Tim goes on record to say that was in the past. He said that to Timothy Jones, Brother Timothy Jones, in their conversation interview that he had, and all of this information are in the links below this video. This full video, I just made clips out of him. You can watch the entire video in its entirety on the channel. Also, Brother Tim Jones in his interview with Tim Hurd on yesterday, I believe it was, or the day before, and you can hear all of these clips in its full context, but it doesn't take away from anything that Tim has said, let alone does it take away from his reprehensible character as an individual and as a human being. He seems to enjoy lying. He seems to enjoy slandering people, and he seems to enjoy grifting because it pays. We know he can't be a pastor because he's already made that clear. He's disqualified. You can pull that information up. You can go to Service Christie's video. Actually, that link is also in the bottom of this video description. I commit all 8.5 hours of that video footage to you. It's called Death to Discernment. And Service Christie did his work. He did his work. And only a fool could argue with the receipts that have been presented in that 8+ hour video. How dangerous is lying? I believe it's very dangerous. And I believe some of you who are watching this video and may watch this replay have been recipients of someone's lies. You may have lost your job, may have lost your livelihood, may have lost relationships or friends. Some have even lost their life over a lie. And once a lie is told, it is very hard to recover from those kinds of things, depending on how severe and how serious that particular lie may be. And again, it's one thing to make a mistake and mistake something or misstate something, and then you go back and you retract it, or you go back and make those things right. But it's another thing when you double down on it. It's another thing when you try to mind screw and you try to manipulate people into thinking that they're the problem and not you. That you're the victim and they're the bad guy. Not the other way around. And this is the playbook of these people. They claim to be people of the truth, but all they do is spout lies, and then they twist stories to fit their narrative, their corrupt, wicked, godless narrative, and then they send it out. And the weak and the naive and the gullible are those who take it in. This is why you have people like Tim Hurd, who's able to have over 100-some thousand subscribers. It's not because of hard work. It's not because he's putting in labor and being committed to the truth. He tells you what it's for. And you'll find out just momentarily in a few moments in this live out of his own mouth why Tim Hurd does what he does. And he's not the only one. There are many others like him. He's just one of them. I want to share the screen. I want to share this story because my wife and I, we saw this today. And this is very appropriate for this discussion as well. You may not remember or may not have heard of this. Some of you might have. Bill and Elizabeth Reed. Bill and Elizabeth Reed, their son, Jack, committed suicide. Why did he do that? Parents talk bullying after elite New Jersey boarding school admits fault in son's death. The parents of a Lawrenceville school student appeared in a nationally televised interview Tuesday, 1 year after their son committed suicide. Bill and Dr. Elizabeth Reed appeared on ABC's Good Morning America after the school admitted it failed to protect the 17-year-old Jack Reed from bullying. The admission from the elite boarding school in Mercer County comes on the anniversary of Jack Reed's death. As part of a settlement with the Reeds, the school said in a statement on its website, it, quote, examine its role and take responsibility for what it could have done differently, end quote. When these behaviors were brought to the attention of the school, there were steps that the school should in hindsight have taken, but did not, end quote, the statement said. Reed's parents said the admission from the school was very courageous and hope that other institutions follow. Quote, we are very gratified by the admission of the school that there are things that it could have done and should have done, including the intervention of adults in certain circumstances, end quote, said Bill Reed, his father. Jack Reed was bullied over the course of a year, starting in the spring of 2021, based on rumors that had spread across the campus that the school later found to be untrue. He was accused of committing sexual assault by kissing a girl. Later that year, an anonymous post on a nationwide student app said he was a rapist. The school never shared publicly or privately that the rumors about Jack Reed were false. Quote, when these behaviors were brought to the attention of the school, there were steps that the school should, in hindsight, have taken, but did not, end quote, the statement said. There were also circumstances in which the involvement of an adult would have made the difference. The school also admitted that on the night when Jack Reed took his life on April 30th, 2022, it allowed the student who previously bullied Jack to return to Dickinson House, a dormitory where he stayed after being expelled for an unrelated rule violation. Quote, largely unsupervised, end quote, without notifying or checking on Jack. Quote, the school acknowledges that bullying and unkind behavior and actions taken or not taken by the school likely contributed to Jack's death, end quote, the statement said. Reed's parents said that they were encouraging him and that he advocated for himself. His mother, a clinical psychologist, said there were no signs that the situation could go as far as it did. Quote, I think that what we realize from our situation is that it can lead to death, end quote. Dr. Elizabeth Reed said about bullying. Quote, this is a very serious issue, and the internet absolutely makes it even much worse for kids today, end of quote. And it says here in the story that they started a foundation for their son. The latter portion of this article says the school said that over the past year, it has focused on a number of issues, among them house culture and healthy socializing, the structure of the dean of students' office and disciplinary protocols, and general health and wellness. It is hard to tell if the school is doing enough, said Bill Reed. Quote, we're anxious to see the success of their plan to fight bullying on campus, end quote, he added. I'll just add this as well. This is Protestia. Why am I sharing this? Well, two reasons. One, because it's public. Two, because it proves my point about when you screw up, when we mess up, we fess up, and we're supposed to make it right. This was 3 months ago, according to the article. 3 months ago. We messed up, and it's important that people know about it. 3 months ago. Yesterday, we wrote an article about Grace Community Church and former elder Han Cho, questioning his choice of employment and disparaging his discernment because of it. We falsely believe that his employer, a bioscience company, was purchasing aborted fetal tissue for experimentation and that he was in a position to know about it while turning a blind eye. Basically, quote, he must have known that they were doing scientific study on aborted babies as the chief ethics officer, but did and said nothing, end quote. Now, I want you to highlight something for a second here. They said that he was an ethics officer. Don't skip over that. All right? Don't skip over that. They claim that Han Cho was an ethics officer. We know what ethics means, right? We know what ethics mean. Okay. But this is what they said. Sometimes the truth is right there when liars write it right in front of you. Thankfully, someone read the article, realized that we've got some details wrong, and publicly rebuked us. Rather than double down on our error, we realized that we misunderstood some technical jargon, made a bad inference because of it, and quickly retracted it with full disclaimers. Why? Because we sinned. We sinned against Cho, his employer, and we sinned against God. Now, that's commendable, David. That's commendable, Dustin. Let's continue. Because we believe in full transparency, they said, we encourage all our readers to read our articles with a critical eye and call us out when we fall short or get something wrong. Are you sure about that? Because Eileen Gray and John MacArthur, I wait to see y'all make any retractions to the stuff that y'all said, but I'll continue. We don't want to covertly edit and correct an offending article and then not address it, hoping it dies and it is never heard from again. Instead, we want to make it twice as public as our mistake. You hear that, Corey? We believe it is a sin to bear false witness and spread bad information, even if it was inadvertent. And this is one way we offer accountability. I wonder, does my brother Corey Minor still believe that? Our standard policy, they said, is to throw the article with our corrections in the corrections/retraction page while keeping the record intact. However, we didn't get a few details wrong with relatively minor implications, but we really got it wrong, causing potential reputational damage. You think? Given the egregious nature of our error, it became apparent that leaving it up ran the risk of it being shared further, so we nuked it from our Twitter feed. Thankfully, we never shared it anywhere else. Because of this sort of error is new ground for us, we're not sure if this was the right move. We believe it is, but it isn't easy to know if a different course may have been better. However, it is easy to know that we must do our best to make it right. We have reached out to Han and offered our sincere apologies, asking him to forgive us for our sin against him. Second, we're pinning this post to all social media feeds for the next month so that it will come before every article, even on sites where it never appeared. It is not enough to undo the damage, but it reflects our editorial commitments as best as we can, along with our sincere desire to be as open and honest with our friends and foes alike. Again, we're sorry, Dustin and David. Oh, that's nice. I'm just waiting for them to make some articles about the things that they've said about other individuals. Phil Johnson, too. We're waiting. We are waiting. I'm waiting for them to make articles about John MacArthur and how he needs to step down because of his spiritual abuse of domestic abuse victims and their families. That's what we're waiting for. But it's kind of hard to bite the proverbial hand that feeds you, right? How many of y'all know who this person is? Anyone know who that person is? Anybody? Anyone? Take a wild guess. Anyone know who this person is? This is Carolyn Bryant Donham. Carolyn Bryant Donham. Yeah. She died a few days ago, I think. What did she do? She was responsible for the murder of Emmett Till. Yeah. She lived a long life. Unfortunately, Emmett didn't. And we all know the story. No need for us to repeat it. But you see what a lie does? A lie not only destroys reputation, but it destroys lives. And some of these people remind me of Carolyn Bryant Donham. They may even be related to her. How do we know? I don't know. Could be. Could be. May have to check some family trees and see what kind of fruit falls from it. But this is the woman that was responsible for the murder of Emmett Till. Falsely accused this boy of making advances at her, whistling at her, trying to press her, is the term we use. And he brutally beat that man. He beat that boy, rather. I'm sorry. Brutally beat him, killed him, savagely. And we all seen the pictures. We've all seen it. This woman never met justice. But Emmett Till experienced injustice. Why do I speak out for those who can't speak for themselves? Reasons like this and others. Reasons like this and others is why I speak out. And will continue to. Because the word of God commands me to. That's why. Now, let's pivot a little bit. Still talking about our infamous friend. Because I don't call him a brother. Y'all can call him a brother. I don't call him a brother. If anything, he's a so-called. But a brother, I don't see it. I don't see it. Call him a so-called brother. But nonetheless, let's pivot. And again, these links are in the description below. Brother Tim Jones had a conversation with Tim Hurd. And let me just give you a little bit of background as to how that precipitated and how that went down. Tim Hurd went on social media and tagged a few people. And Tim Hurd was one of the individuals that he tagged. And in him tagging him, there was a challenge for him to cam up. Well, Tim Hurd, I guess, agreed to it, but under one condition. Yours truly could not be invited to cam up. Why? He says, because I'm an emotional person. I'm not able to be reasoned with. Those were his words. And that's why I put the video link of our conversation that we had back in March of 2021, March 6, 2021, on why his statement about me is another lie. And I'll prove it momentarily. But it wasn't because of me. It's because of what I represent. It's because of the truth. And when you're known to lie, you can't stand truth. You can't be in the same space and atmosphere with the truth. You get uncomfortable when people who are known to stand for truth are confronting those who are known to lie. And trust and believe, Tim Hurd, Bible-thumping wingnut, is a liar. And so in this dialogue and conversation that Brother Tim Jones had, you can go to the link as well. It's in the description. You can check it out in its entirety. They had a conversation, and some of it was somewhat incriminating. Some of it could have been, handled, pressed in a little bit more. But hey, that's always those outside looking in. But Tim said some things I believe that we all need to give our attention to and then govern ourselves accordingly. So let's check it out.
But can you clarify for me the fullness of Han Cho in regards to John MacArthur? What is your answer to Han Cho being basically coming back to John MacArthur and saying everything that we investigated is absolutely true? You guys missed some things. You guys need to repent. And MacArthur saying, forget about it. And basically the elders coming around and telling this man that he needs to retract his findings or resign. What happens with that? And like I said, I'm not trying to come at you. I really want to learn this. I really want to know, because I got a lot of people in my audience that want to know too.
Well, you have to be careful with what you said, because what you just said is false. What you said isn't what Han Cho said, and it's not what John MacArthur said. And what everyone needs to realize is that we don't know all that was said. One thing I know is that the elder board did not commission Han Cho to do an investigation. That's false information that you have stated. That's false information that others are stating as well. It was a request that was, I'm sharing screen, aren't I? It was personally and informally a request was made. Personally and informally. The elders never commissioned him to do an investigation. This is work done by David Morrill.
First and foremost, let's just touch this for a second. You heard what this man just said. He said, "We don't know," right? That's what he said to Tim Jones. Tim Hurd is on record saying, "None of us know. We don't know." But then he says, "But what I know." Well, how do you know that that's not what Han Cho said? Tim, did you talk to Han Cho? Did you have a conversation, whether on the phone or virtually? Did y'all ever exchange contact information? Did you actually speak to former Elder Han Cho to get his statement? Thereby, now we know exactly what he said. Do you have firsthand information, or are you getting it from second or third hand, and even sometimes fourth hand, as you said in this video? Sources. So are we to take your word for what we know is true, that Han Cho he was being interviewed by Christianity Today, and they have a full statement, and then after that, Han Cho makes a statement on his Facebook page confirming everything that he said on Christianity Today was factual and accurate, and there was nothing that was deviated from its original source and interview? So why would we take your word? Matter of fact, I'll be a fool to take your word any day. If people will take your word and take Protestant's word in this article, that, by the way, that David, Morrill wants me to read, I've already seen it. This is why I want him to come up. And since I know that this needs to be addressed publicly, and I'll explain the reasons why we've been having this back and forth, David and I. I'll explain it before this live is over. But I believe this matter needs to be addressed in real time, face to face, so people can see who's lying and who's not. This article that Tim Hurd is referring to comes from the same organization who's notorious for lying and slandering people without evidence. They got so many retractions, you would think they're Michael Jackson doing the moonwalk. So how can you take anything that they say as truth? Because they said it? I mean, we know who's feeding them information. Phil Johnson. I mean, nobody has to be, a genius or a rocket scientist to figure that out. Phil Johnson is all in this. You can smell him a mile away.
So the Christianity Today article claims that a lawyer and one of 4 officers on the elder board at Grace Community Church, Chow, was asked to study the case. Chow's office was as recording secretary. Readers of Julie Roy's article would be forgiven for concluding that he was chosen for chosen by the elders to commission a fresh investigation because of some special legal expertise, a conclusion supported by his friend Rachel Donhull, or whatever her name is. In reality, Cho was asked personally and informally to summarize the available court documents from the David Gray criminal case that was alluded to by Phil Johnson back in March of 2022. No Cho-led investigation into the church's involvement with the Grays was ever requested by the elders. So that's important to note, because that's one of your talking points, and it's false.
Okay. All right. So with David Morrow, I mean, I'm sorry, dude. I mean, I'm not saying that David Morrow is wrong, but after everything that Pulpit and Pen have like really done over all the years and the bad rap that they've gotten, I consider Protestia and David Morrow like the CNN of Christian news, boss. I'm not trying to down anyone. Like I said, it's not an insult. But at the same time, you guys say, well, that didn't happen. But here, Julie Roy's report's different. So it's basically he said, she said at this point. So I'll give you what Julie Roy said. Julie said, Cho told CT that after TER's initial story published, GCC elders tapped him to review the decades-old case. When he did, he became convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that David Gray was guilty and GCC had committed terrible injustice. In a 20-page document submitted to the GCC board, Cho reportedly wrote, now that the facts are indeed known, it's not too late to do justice, even at this stage, almost 20 years later. One's own integrity in upholding justice and righteousness and being faithful, even in the small things, even for something 20 years ago, all matters immensely. But here's the reason why I'm thinking I'm going to go in the direction of what Julie Roy's reported. Because Christianity Today picked up the story from Han Cho, and Han Cho officially resigned after stating that when he came back with the facts, he was told by MacArthur and company that he needed to retract his findings or resign. So he says that this is what Han Cho says. Han Cho said, I was asked by the elder board. You see what I'm saying? So you have David Morrow, who's going to third-party information to rebuttal something that Han Cho himself. So I'm coming directly from the source of Han Cho, and David Morrow's coming from other third-party and third-party sources. So I don't, like I said, this is what Protestia. This is what your buddies at Protestia have done for a long time, and out of all the hit pieces and all the lies that they've been exposed for, dude, especially with JD. Like I said, I'm not trying to kick them down. JD Hall, good friend of you guys. Okay. I get it. Addiction sucks. I have compassion. I have a heart for that. But the thing is, dude, is that I'm just saying, I'm not saying David Morrow's wrong. I'm just stating that when it comes down to everything, where do we really want to stand? Because, I mean, David Morrow, and they've already kind of proven themselves being dishonest. Doesn't mean that they're not being honest in this. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not trying to down you guys, but I'm just saying, man, like when it comes down, overall, it's for the audience to choose, but the results of Han Cho going to Christianity Today and him saying this himself, you know what I'm saying? So, because this is what Han Cho said, and Han Cho officially resigned as an elder on that board.
Well, my young brother Tim doesn't want to say that David Morrow is wrong. I'll say it. Yeah, he's wrong. Not only is he wrong, he's lying. Yeah, he's lying and he's wrong, flat out. He could be no more wrong than he is now. So notice in his article, in his research, he's making a statement for Grace Community Church, John MacArthur, and all these people without Grace Community Church, John MacArthur, making an official statement. Make that make sense to me, David. Where's your source? Who told you that Han Cho didn't say that? Where's your source? Who are the people that are saying that Han Cho is lying? I'll wait. And you see, these are one of the questions I'm going to ask you. Should you take this challenge and take this debate? Because I've already said that we can have it provided if these terms are met for both of our quote unquote channels. And again, and I'll explain the reason why I decided to change course just a little bit for security's sake and also for integrity, mine and the lack of yours. But nonetheless, notice what this liar, Tim Hurd, is doing. How is it that he claims to know, but he's not a member of Grace Community Church? He has not spoken with, I would assume, I'm willing to bet he has not spoken with Hancho. I would be willing to bet he did not speak with the individual that he claims did not say what he said in David Morrow's article, his piece. Yeah. So let's find out exactly whether or not Hancho said what he said, whether or not Phil Johnson is lying. Because remember earlier, right, in the article that they had to retract, the one that they wrote 3 months ago, apologizing to Hancho. Remember that word that I told y'all to look at? And don't forget the word ethics. This is the same guy whose ethics at his company and his business carried over as an elder that they respected, highly respected, as an elder to investigate the Eileen Gray case. Seiko, I thought you said that they didn't investigate. They didn't do anything about it. Well, that's not what Phil said. March 24th, 2022, Julie Royce reports it. Oh, what's she doing? What, Julie Royce? Yeah. Professional journalist. What is David Nomura? Anyway, MacArthur Ministry employees defend child abuser, dismiss screeching pushback. And I'm going to read this in its entirety on the record because I want this to be on record. Following exposés revealing that John MacArthur excommunicated a wife for not taking back her child-abusing husband, prominent employees of MacArthur's broadcast ministry are defending the abuser and dismissing pushback from the survivor community as, quote, screeching, end quote. Neither MacArthur nor Grace Community Church have offered any official response to the Royce Report's initial expose 2 weeks ago. So, question, what is David Morrow doing? How is he making a statement when MacArthur and them haven't made one? Never mind. Too much logic right now. Detailing the shaming and excommunication of Eileen Gray. They also have not responded to the Royce Report's follow-up story documenting how MacArthur and Grace Community Church continue to shun Eileen and promote her husband, David Gray, even after David was convicted of child molestation and abuse. Take my word for it, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all going to fall out of your chair when you hear what this liar, Tim Hurd, said about why they, Grace Community Church, John MacArthur and them, believed David Gray. I can't make this stuff up. Even if I were Tyler Perry, I couldn't write it like this. However, 2 employees of MacArthur's broadcast ministry, Grace to You, Phil Johnson and Fred Butler, have commented online about the Royce Report's articles. Butler has defended Grace Community Church's treatment of Eileen Gray and called it biblical. He also has asserted that David Gray is innocent and that Eileen's children accused Gray of molesting them only after seeing a therapist and recovering, quote, repressed memories, end quote. Eileen denies Butler's assertions, and they are not supported by court documents. Johnson has referred to Eileen's communication as a, quote, 20-year-old discipline case, end quote, and says he doubts the, quote, noise about it, end quote, is legitimate based on the, quote, screeching tweets from the survivor community, end quote. You hear that? You see how they feel? You see how these people feel about those who have been abused? He later walked back part of his comment. Johnson, a longtime GCC elder and executive director of Grace to You, also claims he had, quote, no involvement, end quote, in Eileen Gray's 2002 discipline case and, quote, wasn't serving as an elder in 2002 to 2005, end quote. However, records obtained by the Roy's report show that Johnson was a GCC elder as early as 1994, and including at least some of the years between 2002 and 2005. Johnson has been an elder at Grace Community Church for nearly 3 decades or more. And according to letters obtained by the Roy's report, the GCC elders began their involvement in the Gray's case in July 2001. I smell a lie. I don't know if y'all smell it. Y'all smell that? Y'all smell a lie? Yeah. That's when Eileen reported David's abuse to Grace Community Church pastors and submitted to marriage counseling with David under Grace Community Church pastor and elder Carrie Hardy. It's also when Grace Community Church decided not to renew David Gray's contract as a teacher at Grace Community Church. Hardy urged Eileen in counseling to submit to David despite his admitted abuse. Despite his admitted abuse, the Roy's report previously reported. So in November 2001, Eileen asked the elders to remove her from church membership. Hardy refused on behalf of the elders. Over the next 5 months, Grace Community Church repeatedly urged Eileen to drop a restraining order against David and allow him to return to the family. When Eileen refused, Grace Community Church informed her of the elders' intention to excommunicate her. MacArthur publicly carried out the excommunication on August 18, 2002. Responding to our initial expose, Johnson wrote in an email posted online that Eileen's communication was a, quote, 20-year-old discipline case that I had no involvement in, end quote. He added that Eileen's case, quote, doesn't pertain to me in any way, though she, Julie Royce, always attaches my name to pretty much everything she does, end quote. Johnson was not named in the Royce report's initial or follow-up exposés. Johnson also wrote, here it is, ladies and gentlemen, here it is. I want everybody to make sure y'all listen. Are y'all hear me? Are y'all with me? Give me a 1, because here's the smoking gun right here. Right here. Johnson also wrote that, quote, a friend of mine who is both an elder and an attorney with a special interest in defending real victims is investigating the case. But I'm disinclined to think all the noise about it represents a legitimate desire to know the truth because of all the screeching tweets from the survivor community calling for a halt to ShepCon while someone gives a speedy answer to a piece written by a career muckraker who has proven to be inaccurate and misinformed at best. Proven to be inaccurate and misinformed based on who? Phil? He never answers that. He never proved it, by the way. They just say it. They never prove it, though. And neither does David Moore. But anyway, expository parenting, March 12, 2022. Many of you have questions concerning the Julie Roy story released this week concerning John MacArthur. As we abide by Proverbs 18:17, I reached out to Phil Johnson and he provided the following comments to consider. Note, this is not any form of official statement from GCC. Yeah, it's a statement, but it's not a statement, right? Quote, I haven't even had a chance to read Mrs. Roy's column yet. She desperately posted it to coincide with the start of the Shepherd's Conference, which isn't completely over until after church tomorrow. She is writing about a 20-year-old discipline case that I had no involvement in. It doesn't pertain to me in any way, though she always attaches my name to pretty much everything she does. A friend of mine who is both an elder and an attorney with a special interest in defending real victims is investigating the case. I don't know whether the church will make a statement, and if so, when. But I'm disinclined to think all the noise about it represents a legitimate desire to know the truth because of all the screeching tweets from the survivor community calling for a halt to ShepCon while someone gives a speedy answer to a piece written by a career muckraker who has proven to be inaccurate and misinformed in the past. If they want GCC to respond, they need to give more objective people an opportunity to investigate the case. Johnson's comments sparked considerable backlash from abuse survivors on Twitter who objected to Johnson characterizing their tweets as screeching, quote unquote, and his use of the term real victims, as you can see right there. And one, Meg, she says, is the attorney honcho or George Crawford? Does anyone know? Also notice defending real victims, because they get to decide who's the real victim. Johnson tweeted a few days later, I apologize for the use of the word screeching. It's prejudicial to apply that adjective to written objurgations. He also again denied any involvement in the Gray's case. Quote, I wasn't serving as an elder in 2002 to 2005. Notice what he said. This is his tweet, y'all. He said, I was not serving as an elder from 2002 to 2005. I don't know this man. I don't know this woman, Miss Royce. He tweeted, quote, I have no firsthand knowledge of this case, and I'm not the right person to nag for answers. But yet he always responds. He says right there, I'm not evading responsibility. I wasn't serving as an elder in 2002 to 2005. I have no firsthand knowledge of this case, and I'm not the right person to nag for answers. Mrs. Royce dragging my name into this is pretty clear reason not to trust her motives. I do indeed believe that Miss Royce has shown herself repeatedly to be a shoddy ink slinger with a personal agenda against JFM. But I apologize for the use of the word screeching. It is prejudicial to apply that adjective to written objurgations. Johnson did not address being an elder in 2001, when GCC elders began addressing David's abuse. Records obtained by the Royce Report also showed Johnson's longtime board service, which includes at least part of 2002-2005. In 1994, the year David Gray was hired as a GCC teacher, Johnson served as a member of the GCC's Elder School Council, according to a yearbook photo obtained by the Royce Report. Johnson did not respond when asked about his role on the council. There's the tweet right there. Julie Royce comes in for the kill. She says, thank you for clarifying. Would you explain your role as a member of the Elder School in 1994? The year Gray was hired? Had you stopped serving in this role by 2001 when GCC didn't renew Gray's contract? There's his picture right there, the second row, far right. Kerry Hard is on the far left, second row. You see it there. The Master's Reject, you see this portion right here. I'll read it on the right. It says, quote, also, how can Phil Johnson claim he never spent an hour with David Gray nor formed an opinion of his pedophile conviction when Phil was on the Grace Community Church Elder School Council that hired him? Also of note, Kerry Hardy, who ordered the wife to drop the restraining order. Johnson is also named as an elder in 1999 and 2000 on the Spurgeon Archives, a subpage of GCC's website. In 2000, Christianity Today also cited Johnson as, quote, an elder at Grace Community. Kind of hard to try to scrub all your lies when you make so many of them, I feel. In 2003, John MacArthur expressly thanked Johnson for serving as a fellow elder. Johnson is also included in a 2004 list of GCC elders obtained by the Royce Report. Johnson did not respond when asked directly if the 2004 list was accurate. I bet you didn't. However, after being confronted with numerous pieces of evidence on Twitter, Johnson tweeted, quote, GCC elders can take a year or more on inactive status for various reasons. I've done it twice, hence I was not involved in this case, end quote. Johnson also said that he might have been, quote unquote, present when Eileen Gray was publicly shamed in August 2002. Quote, we have discipline issues to deal with in about a third of our communion services, end quote, Johnson tweeted. Quote, I don't remember or record each one, end quote. Tony Thomas, in his tweet, he responds to Fred Butler, Minix Orsman, and Phil Johnson. It says, quote, I lived in L.A. in the 80s. I met John MacArthur a few times, corresponded with him, attended Grace Community Church and the L.A. Sister Church. I supported Grace to You for many years, beginning in the early 80s. Phil was at GCC when it happened and was probably at the service when she was shamed. Phil responds to Tony, might have been. We have discipline issues to deal with and about a third of our communion services. I don't remember or record each one. And he on and says that. Here's Fred Butler. He does look like Spence on King of Queens, don't he? Another Grace U employee, GCC member Fred Butler, has also commented online about the Royals Report stories involving GCCs and MacArthur's treatment of Eileen Gray. I mean, what does he have to do with this? Well, you be the judge. Butler, whom former Grace to You managing director Travis Allen once called one of the strongest theological minds I know. This is the same Fred Butler, by the way, black people, who says that you and I, as black folk, us Negras, we play a small portion in the overall scope of Christianity. He says we play a small portion. Yeah, we made some contributions. He said it in this article. He said, whoever thought, quoting the reformers would be considered racist. Well, your racist statement about black people would be considered racist. He said that black folk, us Negras, yeah, we made some contributions. He says, but our contributions was built on the true foundation, which happens to be, he says, which so happens to be, according to God's sovereign providence, a white evangelical reformed one. That's what that man said right there. Him. He said that. And if you don't take my word, you don't have to take my word for it. Please don't take my word for it. You can be a Beran. It's in the video that I'm going to show y'all the link. Once I read it, I'm going to show you where he said this. It's in the video. It's in the video. Yeah. This guy said it. Fred Butler. He said it. He said, us black folk, you and I, us African, us Negras, we play a very small portion in Christianity. We're not the foundation. He said the foundation is white folk. Oh, I'm not making that up. Oh, by the way, this is Tim Hurd's buddy. Yeah, this is Tim Hurd. This is Phil Johnson's boy. Oh yeah, all of but y'all mad at me because I call these clowns out. But you can be a racist, but I can't call him a clown. Okay, got it. Not a problem. You can support people like R.L. Dabney, who does not want to have anything to do with black folk. Matter of fact, calls black folks less than human. But he's Phil Johnson's one of Phil Johnson's favorite theologians. But I'll shut up. But nobody want to talk about that though. But we got these coons, these sellouts, these Sambos, like Michael Thieve and Temple Williams and Dear Smoked Turkey Christian, woke Christian. Yeah, you got them caping for these racists, but y'all want to get at me because I clown them and sun them for the fools and frauds they are. But anyway, he says right here, Butler stated in a tweet that David Gray was confronted over his sin, repented of his behavior, wanted to reconcile with his family, and be counseled and discipled. The wife refused to take him back, which is an unbiblical reason for her wanting to leave the marriage. You hear this fool? Y'all hear this fool? He says it's unbiblical. Yeah, there's the tweet right there. Right there. She was held accountable for leaving her abusive husband. She got what she deserved, according to Fred, aka Spencer, King of Queens. However, Eileen says David was not repentant before or after her excommunication. She says David stalked her and repeatedly made death threats against her and her children. Two of Eileen's neighbors corroborated her accounts, but I guess facts be damned, right, Dave? No moral, right, Tim? Right, Tim Hurd? Yeah, facts be damned. To hell with facts. It's all about what Protestia says. It's all about what Tim Hurd says. It's not about the court documents. It's not about the testimonies of witnesses. Yeah, this is going on rumors. But anyway, Butler further claims that the Gray's children accused David Gray of sex abuse after the mother took the kids to a therapist who recovered their suppressed memories. He adds, suppressed memories is as reliable as spectral evidence of ghosts, he says. However, according to Eileen and court documents, Butler's claims are false. Eileen says the first report of sexual abuse by one of her children came spontaneously in May 2003. After crying hours after After crying for hours, while other children played outside, one of Eileen's children told her that David had molested the child. Eileen stated in her 2005 court testimony, the child also drew a picture of the abuse, which was entered in as an exhibit in the 2005 trial. The next day, the same child revealed more details of the abuse, Eileen testified. Eileen then contacted her attorney, who filed motions to temporarily stop David's monitor visitations so a court-ordered professional could evaluate the validity of the child's accusations. A licensed clinical social worker then conducted a court-ordered investigation and determined the allegations were credible. Eileen said. She added that in the social worker's final report, the evaluator stated that David profiled as a pedophile. Within a week of the evaluation, one of Eileen's other children told Eileen that David had molested that child too, Eileen testified. The Roy's report reached out to Fred Butler on Twitter, asking where he got his information and requesting to speak with him. So far, Butler has not responded. Yeah, most cowards and frauds and wicked men don't. Proverbs 28:1 fits them perfectly. The Roy's report has also reached out repeatedly to John MacArthur, Phil Johnson, and other pastors at Grace Community Church for comment on Grace Community Church's treatment of Eileen Gray. No one has responded, but David has. David No Moral has responded. David No Moral is the spokesman. He's the parrot for Grace Community Church. So hey, if he says it, that's all that matters, right? But let's think about something for a second. Let's think about something for just 1 nanosecond, shall we? Because something is missing here. And here's the question. How is it that these people are making statements, but Phil Johnson and them aren't? And also, if this friend who happens to be an attorney, listen to this, y'all. If this friend who happens to be an attorney is doing the investigation, and then we get a story from Christianity Today that this elder who is an attorney was doing an investigation on the Eileen Gray case and has decided to resign because he was forced to make a decision to either retract his decision or be removed as elder. I think logic would lead us to conclude, this is just me, but I don't think I'm by myself. I think there's some smart people in the comments and in the chat and who are watching this video. If Phil Johnson, who unofficially, under the expository parents Facebook page, said, what did he say? Let's just go back up real quick. Because God knows we don't want to misquote Mr. Phil. No, sir. Let's see what Mr. Phil say. Mr. Phil say, many of you have questions regarding, this is expository parenting. Many of you have questions concerning the Julie Roy story released this week concerning John MacArthur. As we abide by Proverbs 18:17, I reached out to Phil Johnson. This is the person who reached out to Phil Johnson. And he provided the following comments. So notice, so we can actually say this is a statement without it being quote unquote an official statement, because Phil is saying that he's saying this, although trying to hide behind it not being official. But we can hold you to your words, sir. Quote, Phil said this. I haven't even had a chance to read Mrs. Roy's column yet. She deliberately posted it to coincide with the start of the Shepherd's Conference, which isn't complete over until after church tomorrow. She is writing about a 20-year-old discipline case that I had no involvement in. It doesn't pertain to me in any way. We know that's a lie. Though she always attaches my name to pretty much everything she does. A friend of mine, here it is, ladies and gentlemen, a friend of mine who is both an elder. Come on. What else is he, Phil? Keep talking, Phil. He is an elder and an attorney with a special interest in defending real victims. So, would Eileen Gray be considered a real victim? I would assume she would be until them findings came back, huh, Phil? Yeah. but we got you right here. You said a friend of mine who is both an elder and an attorney. Wait a minute. Hancho is an elder. He's an attorney. He did an investigation on a 20-year discipline case and came back with the findings and said that y'all messed up. But it's not too late to do justice, he said. It seems to me that this is the elder that's your friend. Probably is not a friend anymore, but at the time of the writing of that comment, of that post, just logic, conclusion, and deduction, and reasoning will cause us to say, well, Hancho was an elder. He was an attorney. He was investigating a 20-year discipline case that was on record. He comes back with his findings, tells the church, y'all screwed up. Y'all treated this woman wrong. Y'all need to apply Micah 6 and 8. You need to do justice to this woman. It's not too late. Make it right. MacArthur says, forget it. And his capers told Hancho, based on the article, either retract it or remove yourself. Either line up with the rest of us and get this bread and be invited to the cool elders table, or you got to leave and take a wild guess what that man did. And may God bless him. May his tribe, may his family increase. May God overwhelmingly bless that brother. But, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that these people are lying. That's what liars do. They lie. And yeah, Tim Hurd probably leads the pack.
And you have an elder, Phil Johnson, saying no. He's saying that Hancho is not telling the truth. Phil Johnson, that's who's quoted. That's what I read. Phil Johnson said, no, he wasn't commissioned by it. And please don't mute me, okay?
All right, sorry.
Your charge of, I don't know if David's lying or telling the truth here or not, but, and then you go on and on and on, and all you're doing is poisoning the well. You're poisoning the well. It's a philosophical term. What you're doing to your audience is saying, look at all this false stuff over here, which you're not being specific, and we don't have to. I mean, the JD Hall situation breaks my heart, and it breaks my heart every day. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so what you have here is you've got Cho's testimony, and what David is sharing is Johnson's testimony. Okay. You've got two elders. Okay. You're going to believe one and not the other.
Well, hold on.
But we're third party. We're fourth party, right? So we don't know. Do we actually know? Do we actually know? Is it Phil or is it Cho? Do we actually know?
If you have two individuals on two sides, right? You have David Morrow and a company who have proven themselves to be false. We have you who have admitted personally to Jeff Durbin that you intentionally lied and use your platform to do it. What I'm stating to my audience is not poisoning the well. What I'm stating to my audience is consider the sources. That's what I'm saying. So if Hancho officially resigned, if Hancho resigned and left the church stating, this is why I left, because I called them to do justice and they wouldn't do it, then I'm going to listen to what he says, because the evidence, the circumstantial evidence pops up with him overall. When you have Phil Johnson, Phil Johnson has lied for MacArthur for years, dude. MacArthur said he was there at Martin Luther King's death, bruh. And Phil Johnson said, MacArthur just doesn't remember things right. That was MacArthur's, let me say something. Phil Johnson is a yes man for MacArthur. Everybody knows that. But my thing, and I'll let you speak in a second. My thing is the situation of where you're considering and you're weighing the sources for information. And Protesti is not a good source for information, and neither are you, due to your own admission.
Okay. If you're going to keep going back to 2017, right? You're going to go back to 2017 when I admitted my guilt. And when I make points, you're going to go back to 2017 and say, Tim, look at, you lied and you were not trustworthy and you admitted it. You admitted it, Tim. You were wrong and you admitted it. So why should I listen to you right now? We need to bury that quick, or everything that we're doing here is for naught. Because here, let me give you an example.
Now, this next clip I'm about to play to you all, he's about to give an example. Okay, listen, he said that out of his own mouth. He is about to give an example. We're going to hear the example in a minute. But first, shout out to Tim Jones on that part, because you held him on that, bro. You definitely held him on that. Why should we believe you? You're known to be a liar, he said to Tim Hurd. You're known to be a liar, bro. You're a liar. You're a liar. He says David Morrow, Protestia, they're liars. Phil Johnson is a liar. Y'all hang around liars. So he held him to the fire of the facts in that regard. And so salute to you, young brother, on that. Very well said. Very well done. Got to give my man his propers on that. But Tim Hurd tries to gaslight and tries to wiggle out of this by making one of the most stupid, and I do mean stupid. I mean stupid. I'm talking about slow as cold syrup, turned upside down. One of the most stupid and asinine statements that he could make, and try to inject yours truly into this public conversation. And here's what he said.
Your friend, when I cammed up with SaikoWoods, as a result of that interaction, he had to publicly repent because he was wrong and he lied and he misrepresented me. He repented, and I forgave him. I don't bring it up, but it's a great example right here. I forgave him. So because he was wrong and admitted that he was wrong, I know you're getting a text message for clarification from Saiko right now, but because he was wrong and he admitted he was wrong, does that mean that I can just discount everything SaikoWoods says right now? Because, well, when he cammed up with the BTWN guy, after that, he had to make a public confession that he was wrong and he had to repent. Now, I dropped it. That I don't discount everything SaikoWoods says because of that, and you should be fair and not discount everything that I said because I was a bad person in the back. I didn't like that person myself. That's why I repented of it, right? That's why I repented of it and confessed it, because I knew it was wrong. SaikoWoods did the same thing, but you still listen to SaikoWoods, and I think you should stop bringing up my past that I confessed, and you could if I have continued, which you haven't proven that I've continued, you need to stop going back to 2017. Or I could just say, everything SaikoWoods says is garbage because he was wrong once.
We see John MacArthur publicly shaming her in that video where he publicly you said it was church discipline. He publicly shamed Eileen Gray because she wouldn't take her husband back. At that time, he was physically abusing her, and she wouldn't take him back. So they disciplined her. He claims that he doesn't know if she was even a believer. And at that time, he's having sympathy for David. He's condemning, I wouldn't say condemning, that's a strong word. He's publicly shaming and excommunicating Eileen Gray from the church. And then not too long from after that, maybe a year or so, he gets arrested for raping the kids and beating his wife and doing a whole bunch of crazy stuff, right? So we have the video of John MacArthur publicly shaming Eileen Gray and finding sympathy with David Gray, who then came to find out who's doing years in prison right now because of all the wicked stuff that he was doing to his children and his family. So the consistent matter of, like I said, substantial evidence. You see MacArthur shaming Eileen. This is what I actually want you to ask, or I want your side of this so I can understand. This is really so I can understand. So you publicly shame Eileen. She's excommunicated from the church. David Gray is found for sympathy, and then he ends up going to prison. Then he ends up going to prison for the very things that she, for worse than what anyone could ever imagine. So she's still in excommunicated from the church. Where was he ever excommunicated from the church? So the situation that I have, and my problem with this entire story, is the fact that people are trying to defend John MacArthur when the very person that he actually found sympathy for found out he was raping his own kids and he ended up going to prison. And Eileen Gray was excommunicated from the church. So that's what we call evidence. So if Eileen Gray sticks to what Julie Roy states and says this is all true, and we see that he's doing life in prison right now, Tim, what's that called, buddy? What's that called? That's called proof, right? Wouldn't you consider that proof?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay. Someone doing time for a charge is not proof that they did it. See, that's false.
I would agree with Tim on that regard. Yeah, someone doing time for a crime that they say that they did. Yeah, but if there's proof, if it's proof that they did it, if there's evidence that they did it, there's court documents, there's statements, there's records, there's video, there's even a written confession by the person themselves who admitted that they did it. What do you call that? You idiot. And yes, I'm calling him an idiot. He's a moron. He's a straight up fool. Tim lays out the information. Tim Jones lays out this information as logically as he possibly can. And this clown, this idiot, he just basically just removes all sensibility and reason and says, no, it doesn't mean anything. He just told you the information, the facts, court documents, statements, confessions, all of that led to this man's conviction where he needs to be and where he is right now. And these people defend this stuff. But y'all get upset and angry at me because of my tone. And you got people that are now still reeling and trying to recover from things that have happened to them as a child. But you worrying about my delivery, my style. Man, shut up. Now, let's go ahead and deal with this situation as well, too. He said that I repented. Okay. Repented of what? What was the sin? What was the sin that I did? Does anyone remember before I even read it? Do y'all remember what the situation was between me and Tim Hurd when he came on my live that day? And it was dated March the 6th. Does anyone recall the argument? Does anyone recall the contention, which really actually led up to him coming onto my channel? Because I accused him. And I know what I said. And during that time, I accused him for taking my video without permission. And so I reported it. Okay? I reported it. Yes, there it is right there. Thank you, Proverbs. I reported him for YouTube licensing violation because I thought that's what he did. And so he said he didn't do that. I said, no, you did. And we was going back and forth for a minute, right? And so upon further review, I realized that, yeah, I messed up. I made an error. I falsely accused him about something that he didn't do. I thought that's what he did. You know, the same thing that Samuel did with Hannah in 1 Samuel 1. Yeah. Only thing is, I went and made mine right publicly. And here's what happened. Let me share the screen because I want y'all to have this and see it with your own eyes and for it to be on record as well, too. Here's the video right here. It's called White Supremacy and Bible Thumping Wingnuts, dated March 6th, 2021. 2021. After realizing that I had wrongly accused this man, I posted and put the following statement on my channel and in the video description right there. You see that? I'm going to read it in case Tim doesn't want to watch it and read this again, because I know he saw it. How we know he saw it? Because he just said that I quote unquote repented, but he didn't tell y'all what the quote unquote sin was. Remember? He made it seem like I'm doing what he did. No, sir. I made an error. You are intentionally lying and trying to defame and trying to slander fellow image bearers. I said, quote, upon further research, after my conversation with Tim Hurd contesting the use of my video being shared on his platform without my permission, my video with Julie Royce was indeed allowed to be used for such purposes due to the Creative Commons attribution. That's what I had it set for. I thought it meant something else. And I was basically, just getting into this whole, YouTube creating thing. But anyway, which automatically allows the use of all videos to be reused and or re-uploaded instead of manually selecting the standard YouTube license option. Since my videos are monetized, it was my understanding at the time that such reuse, resharing of my videos takes away potential revenue from my channel, thus warranting such actions to be reported to YouTube administrators. My understanding was wrong. Therefore, based on my new understanding and information of the facts aforementioned and presented, I publicly confess my sin of error and ask Tim Hurd's forgiveness for my statement of wrongfully accusing him of unlawfully using my video and the contents thereof without my permission. That's the statement. That was the issue. This guy is trying to make it seem to be something that it was not. And see, this is why it is important. This is why Proverbs 18:70, the first presents his case, seems right until another comes and questions him. And so my brother Tim Jones, he probably wasn't aware of that. He probably didn't even know about that. So he couldn't have pushed back on this. And see, and this is another reason why Tim Hurd didn't want me to cam up with Tim Jones on that channel, on that live, because he knew he would have got his lunch ate. Because everything he would have said, I would have pushed back on. And he knows it. That's why he won't cam up now. Even now they won't. So yeah, you don't take what I say as truth. You do discount it. You a lie. You don't take what I say as true. Go on Twitter. This dude calls me a liar. Calls me all kind of names. I mean, I ain't tripping on the name part. I mean, it is what it is. But I'm saying he does not consider what I have to say as credible. Why? Because I'm supporting and defending those who can't defend themselves. I support and defend people like Julie Royce, who's doing the work. That's why. So this is why these people don't have anything to show for when it comes to facts. All they do is go by feelings. They go by subjective emotions. They go by hearsay. No facts. Do you think that Tim Hurd talked to Honcho? Of course he didn't. Did he talk to Phil Johnson? Most likely. And that's why he kept saying, who you gonna believe? You gonna believe Phil Johnson or Honcho? I would definitely believe Honcho over Phil Johnson any day, because he has a proven track record of integrity. Phil Johnson does not. Same guy that was doxing Julie Royce a year or so ago, and tried to mind screw and tried to act as though he didn't, and she busted him on it. Have zero respect for these people. Have zero respect for people who support racists too. And Phil Johnson does that as well. But let me shut up. Let's continue.
Do you know why John MacArthur and the elders have stayed for so long? They supported David Gray. You say it's because they're unrepentant, harboring a child abuser and all this. You and I don't know what happened. We don't know what happened. The elders have a little bit, well, they got a whole lot more knowledge than you and I have. All we have is the court documents and interpretations of them and the ruling, right? We have all that. And you and others, you make these videos and you get all excited. Grace Community Church supported him while he was in prison. They sent him letters and they prayed for him and they supported his prison ministry. Why do you think that they're doing that, Tim? You claim it's because he's a wicked man. You claim it's because he's not saved. There's a flip side to it, Tim. There's a flip side to it. One of two things is happening here, in my opinion. I don't know. We're like fourth parties to this. They have more information than we do, right? The reason I can only conclude this. The reason why Grace Community Church supported David Gray is because they believe he was innocent. When David Gray is in prison, guilty, and they're supporting him, it's one of two reasons. Either they believed he was innocent, or they believed that although he was guilty, he was repentant. If Grace Community Church saw David Gray as an unrepentant, guilty man, they would treat him as somebody who's not a believer. Them not believing the charges against David Gray, that is not sin. It is not sin for them to say, I think he's guilty. Excuse me, I think he's not guilty.
But it's not sin to believe him, but it's not sin to believe him, but it's sin to put her out for refusing to go back to this person who is in sin. Do y'all hear? I told y'all. These people, you can't make this stuff up. These people are lost. And these are supposed to be men. They are clowns. They are suckers. They are weak. They're trash. Straight garbage. Sorry excuse for a man. God help their wives, man. God help their wives. If this is what you hear publicly, I don't know what else to tell you. I do not know what else to tell you. This man is defending pedophiles. Do y'all hear? He's defending ministries that defend and cover and finance pedophiles. Not one time has he come to the aid, support, help, defense of Eileen Gray or those who are victims, objects of abuse, molestation. Not once. He makes excuses for wickedness. Those people don't know God. You can't. You can't. Oh, but hey, I mean, what do I know? I mean, this person, he's just angry. Yeah, I'm angry when I see people being abused, when I see women and children being harmed, and they're supposed to be protected and cared for. I have every right to be abused, but hey, you know what? It's not I don't have any skin in the game, right, Corey? It's not my wife. It's not my daughter. It's not yeah. And that's the mentality and the attitude that these people have. They're straight clowns. They're straight bozos, man. To sit there and make excuse for that kind of wickedness. And then try to guise it as that the church were doing their job. No, they weren't. Their job was to protect Eileen Gray and these other women and children, and they failed. They refused to do it because they believed that he was innocent. How you believe that he was innocent when you have court records and documents and this man's own confession saying that he did the stuff? You tell me, brother. Your guess is as good as mine. The parole board then considered him being repentant. They gave him some more time. They said this stuff was so wicked and so atrocious. They said, no, he's not repentant. He's still trying to claim his innocence. They're like, nope, you're gonna stay with us for a while. Exactly, Sister Shonda. And she's just one of many. Wait till MacArthur dies. Oh, the floodgate's gonna be open. Some people just waiting on this man to die. Trust me, they're waiting on this man to pass on. Just like it was with Ravi Zacharias. No different. We're almost done. Let's continue.
Why did Eileen Gray tell the elders, I will let him back in the home if you rehire him? I believe she said that because at that time she knew as much as the elders knew, and they didn't know the extent of the charges that would come in the future. You know, that the whole Eileen Gray stuff, it's been on the internet ever since it happened. It's been on. Julie just put it all together and, you know, given it new life. And I don't worship John MacArthur.
All right.
And you've been transparent. I'll be completely transparent. Okay. I have 108,000 subscribers, right? And it's not because of me. I am not a witty guy. I'm not a quick thinker. People don't tune in to see, you know, what is Tim going to say today? They tune in to what's the latest news on John MacArthur. I've had a YouTube channel since 2012. And about 5 years ago, I was like, how can I get more subscribers? I mean, I have 8,000 subscribers, but it took me, 8 years to do that. I mean, and I was reading stuff on YouTube about how to grow your YouTube channel. It was like, just look at the videos that get your most views. Well, whatever you're saying there, that's what your audience wants to hear. Well, I did a search, and it's like every time I talk about John MacArthur, I get lots of views. And I believe that John MacArthur, the people who war against John MacArthur, see the same thing. And they're like, hey, when I talk negative about John MacArthur, I get more views. So you know what? I'm going to talk negative about John MacArthur more. So it's on both sides. John MacArthur's not going to be around forever. So I need to come up with something else to talk about. And also, I do share other videos that sometimes get a lot of views. But with the 100,000 subscribers, there's the plaque. I never made a video about it because I know it's not about me, and I display it sideways because it's kind of awkward that I have it because again, it's really not about me.
Yeah, it's about you. It's definitely about you. Hey, dummy, Bible dummy wingnut. You ever read this? This court declaration statement, the one that Eileen Gray submitted. You said, why does she want to take him back? Why was she willing to take him back? Right? I'm going to read this for you because maybe you don't know how to read very well or comprehend. You might be kind of slow. So let me just read this to you. This is page 8, by the way. This is Eileen Gray's declaration. Her declaration statement. Court document. Page 8, quote, Mr. Hardy falsely claimed that I never wanted to reconcile with respondent. That is, David Gray is the respondent. That is false. Mr. Hardy told me that I should reconcile with my husband upon his own command and that of the leaders of his church. I have desired to reconcile our marriage, and that is why I entered counseling with him and have repeatedly requested that respondent and I obtain professional marriage counseling. Since he repeatedly refused pastoral counseling for us and for himself, we remain separated. Respondent refused, stating, quote, it would violate my conscience to do it. I cannot do it, end quote. My reply was, she said, it did not violate your conscience to kick blank and abuse the kids, but it would violate your conscience to seek help for your marriage. Based upon that, and the fact that respondent has continually threatened me, lied, stalked, falsely accused me, and has demonstrated emotional instability. I have chosen to remain separated and so protect myself and the children from this abusive man. She continues on, Tim, Hurd. On 2 occasions, Mr. Hardy said to me, quote, "You are irrational." The first was Mr. Hardy telling me to reconcile with respondent against my will, and it's dated September 7th, 2001. That's the first instance. I said to him, here's the test and the challenge, because they told her to reconcile with David Gray. She said, okay, you want me to reconcile? You want me to bring him back, take him back? This is what she said. I would like you and the elders to prove to me that you trust David with your children and the children of the people in this church by hiring him back. I also said, when you restore his job, then I will know it's time to consider his return home. Mr. Hardy became noticeably upset and said, quote, "You can't expect us to do that. You are irrational. You are making irrational decisions." The second occasion Mr. Hardy called me irrational was on November 6th, 2001. In this recorded conversation, we discussed respondent's immoral behaviors with our 2 daughters, his delusions, and his chronic lying. We also discussed the fact that respondent did not think that his immoral behaviors were wrong. His conscience was not working properly. Towards the end of this session, Mr. Hardy said, quote, listen to this. Mr. Hardy, biblical counselor, Hardy said, quote, "It doesn't matter if he is not entirely repentant," end quote. Wow, she says. Clearly, Mr. Hardy did not seem concerned for the welfare of our children. When I told Mr. Hardy that I was afraid of respondent and afraid to allow him to live with us because he was still unstable, lying, unable to judge right from wrong in relation to his own actions, and had a long history of violence with his family, Mr. Hardy said, quote, "You are irrational," end quote, and proceeded to berate me verbally. So she receives more verbal abuse. I mean, when does it stop? When does it stop? She goes to church to get help. They abuse her. She tries to go to her husband to seek reconciliation, to try to work it out. She still gets abused. She can't win. He told me, that is Mr. Hardy, Mr. Hardy told her that he and the elders of the church were now telling me to end restraining orders and reconcile with respondent. Mr. Hardy told me September 25th, 2001, that I had wrongly separated from my husband. He also said it is not entirely biblical to run from abuse. I'm going to say that again. It is not entirely biblical to run from abuse. He was referring to verbal and emotional abuse, yet I protested and told him I'm going to protect my children. Not entirely biblical to protect my children? So Bush can protect America, but I can't protect my children? Mr. Hardy was seeking to put a guilt trip on me of his trusting parishioners. Tim, Hurd, you're straight stupid. I know, that's hard language for some of y'all. The Bible says, read it in Proverbs, chapter 12, verse 1. He who rejects wisdom is stupid. Stupid. The Bible also says in Proverbs, it says a fool does not delight in understanding, but only in revealing his or her own mind. The more a fool talks, the more stupid and foolish they sound. Tim Hurd is an idiot on steroids. Last couple of clips and we're done. Thank you for your patience. Hope it's being informative to many of you. because here is where it gets rather interesting. Now, these last two clips, I mean, this was the death knell, I think. I mean, Service really, he put the work in on that 8+ hour video, and he gave the summation of these people. I mean, he gave the full summation. If you still support Protestia and you still defend this kind of wickedness, then I have to question whether or not you're truly saved. I really do. If you can defend people who abuse women and children and call that church discipline, and then try to diminish and belittle and try to minimize and destroy individuals who are standing up, defending the helpless, the weak, the orphan, the widow, those who are speaking out and speaking up in defense of these people. If you're making articles like Protestia does, attacking Julie Royce, well, you got a fight on your hands, because I'm coming for you. Because what you're not going to do is come for her and thinking I'm just going to sit back and let y'all do that. But I got a challenge to make in just a minute. But let's hear what Brother Service says in regards to these wolves protesting them.
Well, of all the men in this picture, James White is the only one that said anything publicly before all of this happened. Now, I've got other issues with James White, and no doubt Jordan's personal provocations to James White further this thing along. Nevertheless, James White publicly talked about this. Chris Roseborough and Phil Johnson, the tag teaming hypocrites, they didn't have a word to say. While they admit that he's slanting stories and it's yellow journalism, Jordan did not act alone. He acted in support, with the support of all of the elders of the fake church that he was a part of, and all of the members of Protestia, Dustin Germain, Seth Dunn, David Morrill, all of these just foul creatures. That's what they are. Jordan Hall acted in cahoots with them. Insofar as Jordan Hall was guilty of slander for years, and he was. Insofar as Jordan Hall has been proven to be a legal defamer, and he is. Insofar as Jordan Hall is a spot and a blemish to Christendom, and he is and has been, all of those at Protestia were complicit in it and part and parcel of Jordan Hall.
I read the story that was written and was basically telling him, you are reporting facts that you don't have yet.
That's what they do.
We're still waiting on a lot of information. You have half of the story.
Pay close attention here.
You are extrapolating information from that half of the story, and you are drawing conclusions and reporting them as facts that are based purely on speculation. It is my clear memory that I said to him, you take the few facts that you do have and extrapolate additional information from them via speculation, and his response was, I have that right.
Oh, yeah, he thinks it's a gift.
And I replied, you don't have that right to report a full story with only half of the facts.
This is what Pulpit and Pen, Protestia, Jordan Hall, and all of his minions are known for. Taking half of a story, sometimes a quarter of a story, sometimes they'll fabricate something. They'll take a piece of a story, extrapolate, and fill in the blanks according to their own wicked dictates, claim that it's their right. But when it comes to Jordan Hall, when his own church confirms that, yeah, his wife told us that he physically assaulted her and her children. Oh, and by the way, here's a police report with 2 listed victims and 2 witnesses. They don't want to touch it. Why? Because they're all wicked hypocrites, just like Jordan. This is not guilt by association. This is called guilt by cooperation.
Amen, brother. Amen. Now, let me just say this, and I'll be done. My challenge still stands for you, David Morrill. I've already emailed you. We had an email conversation. Initially, I extended the opportunity for you to cam up on my channel. You said no, you were not interested. I said, I figured you would say that, but let me just go ahead and then I'll just come on your channel and I'll just deal with you on your channel. And then upon further reflection and further consideration and recollection, I forgot about the people I was dealing with. And thank God for the Holy Spirit. Because I forgot how dirty and how deceptive and how notorious you are and your ministry is when it comes to facts and when it comes to representing the truth. And so I say, you know what? No, let's get a moderator. That's what I said. I said, let's get a moderator. And I have the receipts. I'll provide them in just a minute. But I said, let's get a moderator. I said, because that way we can make sure that what's being said is being said rightly. We can make sure that what people are on, they're representing their positions correctly. There's no issues. There's none of this banter and all this other kind of stuff. I understand because you didn't want to come on my channel, by yourself. That's okay. I'll come on yours. But I said, you know what? No, let me just go ahead and let's get somebody that we can mutually agree that would not be biased. And so I gave you two names. The first name I gave you was Dr. Michael Brown. I gave you Dr. Michael Brown. We both agreed that Dr. Michael Brown would probably be the one that we could get. I contacted his office. His office contacted me back and said that he would not be able to do any. He would be out of the country until June. And if he has any engagements, he has to fulfill those. And so we're talking about maybe July. I said, well, that's too far out. And so I emailed you back and told you, yeah, we're going to probably have to, find somebody else. I said, well, hold on, I have another one. I said, what about Dr. Dennis Swanson? Dr. Dennis Swanson was a former faculty member at the Master's Seminary University, and he was vice president there, and he worked there for 25 years. A quarter of his life was spent working for the Master's Seminary University, and he was under the leadership of John MacArthur. So I think he would have something to pretty much, he can moderate this. And if anything is being said that's inaccurate, we both said, hey, okay, you were a little bit reticent. You said that he kind of like hurt your in the words that you said. He made some insulting statements and attacks against you. Don't know what those were, but nonetheless, you said you would agree if I read your stuff. I told you I don't need to read your stuff. I read enough to know why I'm bringing you on and when I came up with you. You insisted and you wanted me to read your articles, read one of your articles, and then in writing state what my disagreements are. I said, I'm not doing that. There's no need for me to do that. That's a waste of time. I don't have that much time to be wasting on that. We can do that verbally. We can schedule a cam up and we can do that verbally. Because if your defense is the crap that Tim Hurd had, which I already know it is, you already lost. You already gonna be looking stupid. But nonetheless, I said, hey, let's just do it that way. Let's get a moderator. You came on my chat earlier today before the live had started and before that commenced, and you called me a coward and a fraud. Sir, anyone who knows me knows I don't run from people like you. Blood runs through my veins, not red Kool-Aid. And you're nothing to me at all. And the only reason why I am deciding to have this conversation or have this debate or dialogue or however we want to coin it or term it or phrase it is because people like you are lying and covering for pedophiles and covering for child abusers and wife beaters. And you're doing it under the guise of caping for a preacher, a so-called pastor like John MacArthur, who has been housing and fostering these people and financing people like David Gray and writing letters to little girls in 1979, like Wendy Gray, whose father molested her and saying that her father's still a good man and he's going to be on staff, and it was only removed from making out with the church secretary. So that shows you where John MacArthur's standards of moral lie. So who are you really defending? We know who you're defending. So the challenge is still available. Dr. Dennis Swanson has agreed to moderate our debate live on this channel. If you want him to come on your channel to do it, ask him and see if he does. But he said he'll be more than happy, more than willing to accommodate and serve as a moderator between the two of us. It is yours to accept, yours to reject. But I'm making it known. I'm making it public now. Now, let me get to these emails. I only have 2 emails to read, and this is the first one. This is the one you sent to me last night at 11:38 p.m. You said, Seiko, below is the invite for tomorrow night's show. That's today. Wasn't going to be a part of it because I already had other plans. I wasn't going to do it because I already told you what we needed to do to make this thing more balanced and fair. He said, below is the invite for tomorrow night's show. Again, we can talk about whatever you want, although I'd like answers to the questions you've asked. Answers to the questions I've asked. If you'd rather not cam up, you can answer the questions on Twitter, email, or whatever. So I'm not doing the written answers. And then he puts the information here. I didn't put the link in there because I didn't want to have the link posted for the link there. But it was tonight, 6:15 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and so forth, right? I responded back to him and I said this, David, due to prior commitments, I will not be participating on your broadcast. However, as initially stated in my email, I still extend you the opportunity to appear on my broadcast to discuss John MacArthur, Julie Royce, Eileen Gray, Wendy Guay, and Han Cho only. I have no interest in discussing any other unrelated topics with you. Also, upon further reflection and consideration, given the fact that your ministry and reputation has a track record of failing to display integrity in the work you, J.D. Hall, protested, produced, and are notorious for slander and misrepresenting others, unless the two of us can agree to have a mutual moderator to facilitate our discussion/debate, coming on your broadcast will be futile, fruitless, and a waste of time. Let me repeat, so there is no further misunderstanding. Unless the two of us can agree to have someone we mutually trust, respect, and who is unbiased to moderate our discussion/debate, then coming on your broadcast, or mine for that matter, would be futile, fruitless, and a waste of time. In other words, I don't trust you. And it wouldn't surprise me if the feeling is mutual toward me. If there are any names you can think of, let me know, and we can discuss them at a later date. Now, at the time of that email, there was some conversing back and forth via email. And let me just read I think the last two that were transmitted. This one, here it is. I think this is the one. I'm just have to read it. It's on my phone. David responded back at 1:36 this afternoon. He said, let me go back here. Hold on. I think this is the one here. Okay. Let's see. I think I got that one. 136, 136, 136, 136. Okay. Sorry, y'all. This is live, so I'm trying to make sure I have it in the right time order. All right. Okay, I think this is it. So he says, I'm good with Michael Brown if he's willing, because I gave him the suggestions. He said, I'm good with Michael Brown if he's willing. He says, Dennis Swanson is probably a bad choice since he's vocally and publicly attacked me for a long time. But if he's willing, I'm game, he says. Any discussion about J-Mac, the Gray case, and or related concerns will find me citing my extensive research, he says, on the case, which has been freely available for well over a year, and you are still free to read and judge for yourself. Again, my original simple requirement for being willing to cam up, you presenting one articulated disagreement with my work on the case in light of you calling me a liar and a coward over and over, because you are. It remains unfulfilled, the request, he says. Yet I'm a man of my word and will gladly cam up once this simple request is fulfilled. So I guess he may not cam up because there's nothing for me to write to you. He says, despite your insinuations to the contrary, I did not and would not agree to your original terms, yet you agreed to come on my show to embarrass me in my own backyard, quote unquote. I agreed and offered to discuss anything you want. Now you're changing the terms, and while I'm truly okay with your new offer, you and I both know that if I moved the goalpost like this, you would have shouted it from the rooftops. You are clearly refusing to uphold what you've offered multiple times, now claiming you don't trust me days after you apparently trusted me enough to respectfully ask me to come on your stream a few days ago. Yeah, my stream. My stream. See, I don't have a history of misrepresenting people and lying and all that kind of stuff. You do. But I'm trying to be fair and have it to where we have a moderator facilitate and handle this situation. You would think you would have a problem with that. He said, I had no interest in camming up with you. I know that. He said, I have no interest in camming up with you, but I am happy to in the event you fulfill my simple request or you secure a reasonable moderator, we can stream the discussion on both your channels, on both of our channels. At that point, I'll be happy to join you and you'll be free to prove I'm a liar in front of everybody. So again, we already had the moderator already told him that. And so then I said to him, this is the last transmission, I believe, at 2:37 for me to him. Oh, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat, MTM. He said, I spoke with Michael Brown's personal assistant, Brandon, and he informed me that Dr. Brown will be out of the country this month and will not be available for interviews or engagements until July, the latest. So I would assume having him as a moderator isn't possible at this time. I will ask Dr. Swanson via Twitter if he would be interested and willing to moderate our debate/discussion. That way, you will be able to see the conversation and interact with him as well. As far as reading any of your articles and or refuting them in writing is concerned, I reviewed enough of your quote-unquote research to conclude that your work is misinformation at best and slanderous and defamatory at worst. And I have no problem presenting my case verbally, face-to-face, should you desire to cam up. Otherwise, there is no reason for us to volley this back and forth because it's useless. Lastly, and as stated in my previous email, upon further consideration and recollection, your reputation, including Protestia, for being an organization of integrity is woefully lacking and notorious for manipulating and twisting stories to suit your agenda. Therefore, it is for these reasons and many other documented reasons that I've decided to engage you in a public debate or discussion with a moderator present to ensure both parties will conduct themselves accordingly. My character and reputation speaks for itself regarding my integrity. Unfortunately, yours and Protestia does not. I'll provide evidence to support my position later today when I go live, and I've already done that. If you're still willing to have the debate discussion with Dr. Swanson as moderator, let me know, and I'll reach out to him this afternoon via Twitter and ask him. I'll tag your name as well. And that was the last email transmission that he and I had. And so yes, so that is that. So, and Dr. Brown just DM'd me. That's funny. I have to respond back to him in a minute. Let's see. So anyway, so that was the gist of the whole thing. So Dr. Swanson is willing to moderate. I think that would be reasonable, because it's just to have us do it, it's gonna probably not go well. So to be fair, I said, hey, if we agree to a moderator, then let's just do it. Because I'm not writing anything. I don't need to write my dissertation or write my disapproval or disagreement to you. I can make that verbally clear, as I've already done so far now. Or we can get Pagani. Yeah, get Pagani. But anyway, before I let you all go, on a lighter note, I want to close out somewhat. This is almost a closeout. Y'all can get ready to put your tray tables and stuff, getting ready to land this plane. But I wanted to introduce to y'all an artist. I discovered this artist, and man, listen, he is worth a listen. I don't know why this guy has not gone platinum and why he's only gone wood. He should get more than wood. He should have gone platinum. And maybe it's just me, but maybe if I'm wrong, then you guys can tell me. But I think this artist here, he's worth a listen. Now, all I ask is don't block me, don't unfriend me, don't unsubscribe from me. But maybe this is some talent that we need to see that's in the making. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you the one and only one, and hopefully only, Mr. David Morrow. Everybody give him a hand. Let's give him a hand, y'all. Let's give him a hand. Let's give him a hand, y'all. Come on, let's give him a hand. Come on. All right. He's not going to provide an A and B selection. He's going to provide a selection. Chocolate. Sexy chocolate. Whew. If you want me to cam up, gotta agree to terms, or we will not have a debate. That's it. Okay? Simple. Simple, y'all. Let's agree to the terms, shall we? Can we do that? I'm just asking for you to be reasonable, Mr. No Moral. And we can get this thing hopefully started this week. Maybe. If you're free Friday or Saturday, let me know. I'll let Dr. Swanson know, and we can make this happen, sir. All right. Anyway, that's it. I'm done. I'm done. I need to get to my family in just a moment. And I don't know what that was, but don't cry. You don't have to cry. Oh man, that's worse than my girl wants a part of. Oh, y'all are brutal. I thought the song was brutal, but anyway, let me get out of here. But listen, hopefully you all heard the receipts, saw the receipts. It is what it is. These people, godless, totally godless. But anyway, please like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. Like this channel. Let's get the algorithm activated and let people know that we are here. Also, like to support this ministry financially, you can do that by clicking the link information, the donation links information there. Again, those of you who are in the United States, if you want to support this ministry and this channel, we encourage you to use these options here. That's ticketed across the screen and below the video. Also, lastly, BCB merchandise. You can hit the link below at the bottom of the video as well. Also, those links to the videos and the clips and all of that are listed in the video description below as well too. So it is there. You don't have to worry about trying to find it. I have it already below, waiting for you all to review. Xerxes says, "No, I'm being serious. If he came to Capitol Records or Busted Records, I'd stop the song 30 seconds in and say, man, please don't waste my time." Oh my goodness! Now, yeah, y'all can get that tune out your head now. Y'all gonna be walking around in the kitchen. I don't know what he thought he was doing when he was in. Right, let me shut up. Let me get out of here. All right, y'all. I'm done. I ain't going to hell, am I? Hope not. All right, y'all. Listen, I'm out of here. I gotta get on to the family. That's my time. I thank you all so much for yours. Y'all know the drill. Whatever you do all to learn I'm God. God bless.
Mama, I love you. P.O.P. All the time. Right, these all good pimps, boy, baby.